As always, cautionary warning here. Some of these stories do contain subject matter that some people will find disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. And if you have a story you want to send my way, just go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to do so. And of course, thank you. This happened in York, Pennsylvania, about 15 years ago. A guy randomly stumbling into my house ended with me and a friend being shaken down by a drug dealer in a really bad part of town. Here's what happened. I had recently moved to York from Tennessee to be closer to my then girlfriend. We had rented a house just outside of town. It was a single story but had a walkout basement that faced the fenced-in backyard. It was a pretty cool setup. The basement had a kitchen and there was a nice patio as you walked out of the basement, perfect for hosting get-togethers. After we got settled in, we decided to invite some friends over for drinks and a barbecue. We had 5 people over. We drank quite a few beers and had finished eating. We sat around the patio talking and eventually moved inside. It was a nice cool evening in August, so I left the sliding glass door open, screen closed, to allow the breeze to blow in. It was getting late and our guests began to leave. Eventually it was just me, my girlfriend, Kyle, and Stephanie. Kyle and Steph were dating. Kyle had not been drinking because he was driving that night. It was nearing midnight, so they were also about to head out. Important to note, Kyle was not from the area either. He and I knew nothing about what streets or neighborhoods were safe. Suddenly, the screen door slid open and in walked some random guy. He looked to be in his early 20s, but was in rough shape. He had a white t-shirt on that was stained with what I assumed was dried blood. His pupils were huge and his movements were abnormal. I jumped up and said, "Who the hell are you?" He said, "You're Chris, right? I need help, man. These guys just beat me up." My name is not Chris. I had quite a few beers flowing through me, so I definitely didn't handle this like I should have. I was more curious what this guy wanted when I should have been alarmed and frightened by this disheveled man barging into my house. Kyle and I questioned him further and eventually told him to get out. This guy swore that if he walked down the street, there were guys waiting to beat him. He said that he needed a ride to his dad's house and would pay us $100 for giving him a ride. He then proceeded to pull out a $100 bill. Kyle and I were both pretty broke, so he had our interest. His dad only lived 10 minutes away, and it was a safe part of town, according to my girlfriend. Kyle was sober, so he said that he would drive. Our girlfriends would wait at the house for us to return. We get in the car, Kyle's in the driver's seat, the random guy in the passenger seat, and me in the back. I brought a knife in case things got crazy. We get to the house, and the guy says, "Hold up for a sec. Let me make sure my dad's home before you take off." He runs up to the house, knocks, and a guy answers the door. The guy that answered the door starts screaming at this dude and tells him to get the hell off his porch. A random guy comes running back to the car and says, "Change of plans? I need you to bring me to my friend's house on Princess Street." We protested this request, but he pulled out another $100 bills, so off to Princess Street we went. Like I mentioned, Kyle and I knew nothing about York, Pennsylvania. What I now know, Princess Street is not a place that you want to visit at 1 in the morning. We pulled up to a bar that had a big Colt 45 neon sign glowing in the window. The guy said that his friend lived upstairs. He needs to go make sure he's home, and he'll be right back, so we were just to wait outside. Kyle and I start looking around and see women standing on the street corners. A random guy is stumbling down the sidewalk and rambling incoherently. We start getting majorly freaked out, and are about ready to bail. Just when we were about to punch it out of there, the random guy comes walking out with 5 other dudes. I notice that our unwanted guest has a fresh stream of blood coming out of his nose. One of the guys approached the vehicle and motioned to roll the window down. Kyle, like an idiot, obliges. This new character leans into the open window and says, "Your friend here owes me a lot of money for, products that he hasn't paid for, so settle his debt now, or this car is mine. Now, get out of the car." We sat there frozen with panic. I explained that we didn't know this guy, that we just gave him a ride, as if these guys cared. I was certain that we were about to lose a lot of money or get shot. I told the guy that I'll get out. I just needed to open the door so I could get out of the back seat. The car was a 2-door, so I had to push the passenger seat forward in order to open the door. The guy took a step back, and I went to open the door. Kyle realized that we had an opportunity to get away, so he floored it. All I remember is our unwanted guest screaming, "Don't leave me here with these guys," as we sped off. We stopped at the police station on the way back to my house and filed a report. The cops didn't seem to care. They were more interested in why I was out in public while intoxicated. We never did hear from that random guy again, and I can only guess what happened to him after we left. This seriously happened to me last year. I was home alone. My 2 older brothers are always in our local church, which is very near to us. It's like 1 street away. We also had no electricity, and it was daytime. We couldn't pay our bill on time. So I was home alone, and I'll have to admit that I'm not in the church with my brothers because I'm too lazy when it comes to religions and things that need me to go out and talk to people. I would always choose to be home alone back then. So, yeah, I was home alone, no electricity, just using my phone, drawing stuff on my sketchbook, music, etc. My brother came home, and he went straight to the bedroom. No word or anything at all. But it wasn't very fast. He walked very normal with a normal face. So, after a couple of hours, it was almost getting to nighttime. We do have candles, but I couldn't find any, so I was asking my brother, who's still not coming out of his bedroom. He came out quickly and went outside the house after he told me to follow him and fix the electricity. I was like, "What's your plan?" And he asked me to get a screwdriver and pliers. He taught me how to get back electricity when it was cut off. He told me to cut the hanging thing that was a lock for the electricity meter. It's a circle-shaped thing that's attached to a wall in every house that has electricity. He told me to remove the seal after the lock and pulled out the whole cover. This revealed a plastic chip that was in between this metal that's supposed to be in contact with the cover I just removed. So, I removed that chip and put the cover back on, and the lights came on. I was like, "Oh wow, that's it? That was easy." My brother went straight back to his bedroom again. Then, I received a call on my phone. "Hey, we're gonna spend the night here. You should come here, we've got electricity and food," my brother said. The one who's speaking. Of course, I know his voice. I know my brother's voice. This voice is the one who just helped me fix our electricity. I asked him where he was, and he told me he was in the church. I told him, "Stop it. You're obviously joking. You're so lame." But I wanted to go to his bedroom just to throw a pillow at him. But then I realized that I'm not hearing any voice from his bedroom while I'm talking to him. He was talking normal. He wasn't being quiet. I should have heard him inside the room, but there was no voice at all. I couldn't run. My legs turned so weak. I didn't even want to make any sounds at all. I slowly as a snail grabbed my pants and slowly walked outside while looking in every single corner. I was tearing up so bad, my lip was shaking while I was thinking, if this is a prank, I swear. But it wasn't. It was not a prank. I arrived at the church trembling. I even cried worse when I saw both of my brothers. They had never seen me cry like that before. I'm actually crying while I type this out. It has got to be the most traumatic memory of my life. I've been with someone I'm sure that is not human. That thing was not my brother. I talked to him. I followed his orders to fix our electricity. I followed a non-human's command. My brothers thought maybe I was just hungry or I just needed some sleep or rest, but no, I know myself. I was fine. They believed me that someone assisted or helped me at home because they saw the lights were back. I was also crying so hard that I couldn't even construct a sentence at that time. I know this is not some paranormal story, but it is true and mine. I have never posted this story anywhere online. I have told the story to friends and family, and was thinking about telling the story on a YouTube channel that I am creating, but I realized it was not the kind of story for what I want my channel to be. After hearing what happened to you about getting your video copyright claimed, I figured I would give you a story that you could use free and clear. Today, my words are about something that happened to me. Back in 2003, I was 22 years old. I was a merchant marine. These are the people who crew import and export ships. You know those ships with huge amount of containers? They require a crew, and I was one of those. And this was my first tour, so I was working a lower paying job. We were delivering equipment to Kuwait for the Iraq War, so we had to travel through the Mediterranean Sea, and at that time, we had a fuel stop on the island of Crete. I was excited because this was the first time I would set foot on a different continent than the one of my birth. So, I made sure to ask ahead of what I would be expected to do, if I wanted to be able to go ashore and experience the port. My first engineer told me that I was okay to go ashore, but told me that we would only have a few hours. I had also talked to other guys about what I should take with me, and various pieces of advice. Some of this advice I took, like sticking with a buddy, but some I disagreed with, and that, in the end, saved me a lot of hassle. So, come that night, I knew that a launch, a small boat, would come aside the ship, and we would be taken to port. One of my shipmates told me that he would show me around, let's call him Chip, but he insisted that we get me a new jacket. My current coat was stained with oil and fuel, so yeah, I agreed. When it got to be the time to go, we all went down to the launch by way of the gangway, which is a movable stair attached to the side of the ship. Once on the boat, I got my first real look at Crete. I could still see the place, a hilly island that just seems to drop into the sea. We ended up hitting dirt and waiting for a bus and some kind of shelter. While we were there, I was watching snow fall onto the ground. Across from where we were was a hill that had all the small multicolored homes that I forever think of when imagining Greece. Once we went into town on the bus, we were dropped off at some town square type area. Just across the way was a clothing shop that Chip made a beeline for. There was some nice clothing, but we had to go into the basement to find a coat that would fit me. I'm 6'5" and at this time about 300 pounds. It was hard for me to find clothes that fit at the best of times in America, so I had to settle for a mohair jacket that made me look like an English professor. Then, on to the drinking. Chip had a favorite bar when he was in town and he knew the staff. It was a small place but had a nice atmosphere. I liked it. Chip and I started drinking and had ordered a bit of food, and after a bit, Chip was dancing with one of the ladies there. I spent my time talking to the bartender, who was a Belgian woman, who was more than happy to take my US dollar rather than the euro, even if it cost $1.25 for every euro at the time. This woman was also happy to have someone to talk to for the evening because it was slow that night. Chip warned me that we would need to think about leaving soon, so I switched to cola. But the bartender kept putting shots next to the cola because they couldn't just sell cola, or so she said. I can drink cola like water, and I had already had a few. The shots were a cinnamon sweet liquor. I was told it was probably Ozo, but I don't know. What I do know is that they went down easy and tasted good. I get up to use the restroom, and the room shifts. Oh crap. That was my first warning that I might be drunker than I thought. Once I got back, I realized Chip was gone, so I paid my tab and ran towards where the buses were. Somewhere in there, I vaguely remember getting into a fight, but that may have been just me being drunk. What I do remember was two guys beating up on one guy, and I rushed one, knocking him into a wall and then throwing another into a trash bin. The guy that I rescued said something in Greek, but it sounded like, "Where are you from?" And I told him Montana. I don't know why. By the time I get to the buses, they're gone. I head back to the bar, drink some coffee, and have them get me a cab. I hop into the cab and have them take me to the port. When I get there, I ask some other sailors who are standing around if my ship was still there, and they point to lights slowly being lost over the horizon. At this point, I didn't know what to do, and I asked one of the sailors who pointed me to the JTOC station, Joint Tactical Operations Command. They then told me that I would have to go to the naval base that was here. I got another cab and went to the base. I remember talking to the gate guard, and they directed me to the hospitality area to get a room and to talk to MSC in the morning. MSC stands for Military Sealift Command. They're a paramilitary group who oversees civilians who work with the Navy. They were overseeing my ship. Once I got in touch with them, they called my ship via sat phone. They talked with my captain for a bit, and then handed the phone to me. "Do you want to go home or get back on the ship?" the captain asked me. "Sir, I want to get back on the ship." "I'll see what I can do." That was it. That was all I knew. I handed the phone back to the commander, and he talked with my captain for a bit more. The commander mentioned something about how much easier it would be if I had my passport. This is where ignoring some of that advice came in handy. I brought my passport, stuffed into my cargo pockets. Now, I did this because of all those old movies and cartoons that had someone in a foreign country and some policeman asked for their papers. Well, I didn't want to be without my papers, so I brought them. I told the commander that I had my passport and pulled it out. At this point, he grabs the phone and calls someone. I find out that it was the port agent later. This port agent is the guy who organizes everything at the port for the sailors. He comes by and picks me up and takes me to a hotel and tells me not to leave. Looking out my room window, I see the bar that started this whole thing. I shut my curtains and watch TV. And I mean just watch. I couldn't understand a word. The next day, the agent comes and gets me, takes me to the airport, walks me through customs, and I board a plane. Keep in mind, no one told me where I was going. I could have been heading home or to the ship. The flight I was on was going to Athens. At Athens, I met with another person who handed me a ticket for Cairo. At this point, I assumed I was going to my ship. When we landed in Cairo, I met another gentleman who guided me to his truck. Now, I'm from America and trucks are common. I had seen small trucks before, but not one that was this small and an extended cab. The guy apologizes and I get in the back. I had to stretch sideways to fit. They then take me down what I guess to be a highway to a small hotel. My room is up and in the back. Like, I felt ridiculous. It was up an external flight of stairs and in an overhanging room, and the stairs went between two walls, and I had to squat and walk sideways like a crab to get through. The room was decent, though. The next morning, bright and early, like as the sun was rising, I got to see just the tip of the pyramids. We drove to this half-wrecked building near the water. At this point, I'm told that I'm at the end of the Suez Canal. The building is being guarded by men in green fatigues, AK-47s, and aviator shades. I mean, like right out of the movies. And they're standing in front of a half-wrecked building. I have no idea what is going on, other than they're trying to get me to my ship. The driver asks me for my passport. I give it to him. I don't know what else to do. This was so weird to me. Like, here I was, trusting all these random strangers to my fate. I didn't know these guys. I trusted them because at the airport they had a sign with my name on it. After what seemed like forever, the driver came out and handed me my passport and told me to get out. We walked over to a wooden boat, like those ones out of Indiana Jones in the third movie. We got on and took off. This was crazy. I saw my ship looming in the distance. If you've never seen one of these ships from the water line up close, they are huge. Think watching a 5-story building gliding across the water at like 35 miles per hour. Oh, and we're rushing to meet it. As we get closer, the gangway drops, and I'm directed to hop across. Now, I know it was only inches, but imagine you're on a skateboard and you're supposed to get close and hop onto a bus as it goes 35 miles per hour. The water rushed below my feet, and I just hopped across. The boat takes off even before I'm all the way up. At the top was one of my shipmates, working the gangway. He was surprised to see me. I found out later that he was told that someone was coming aboard, just not who. He asked me how I got there, as he couldn't see the boat from his angle. I told him I just flew in, not meaning to joke. Just jet and adrenaline lag. He responds with, "Okay, Superman." This is when I look down and see that through this whole thing I've been wearing a Superman symbol shirt that my kid picked out for me. The nickname stuck with me for the rest of my time on that ship. Apologies if this story is a bit messy, or I may forget bits, but I'll try to be as detailed as possible. This happened when I was around 12. I'm 22 now. We were still living in our previous house at the time, and we had one of those old school kind of desktop PC computers on a desk, or computer stand in our hallway area. So by the time I was about 11 or 12, I had a Facebook account, which a lot of people my age did as well. I had all my friends and people from school on there, as well as family members, mom, sister, sister's boyfriend, etc. I never really did much with it back then, other than talk to friends and family, share quotes and random things that I liked or found interesting, share a few pictures, etc. Just regular kid/teenager stuff. One day, I got a friend request from someone. I looked at it and saw that it was a guy named Jake, if I remember correctly. From his profile picture, he seemed normal and decent. He was slim, had dark hair, dark brown or black hair, and I think maybe some tattoos, too. He didn't have a lot on his Facebook, just a few things here and there, but that's fair enough, as not everyone does have much on their Facebook profiles. Some people are more on the private side or just like to use it to talk to people. My innocent, naive young self decided to accept his friend request, as I didn't see anything wrong with it. He started messaging me and we started talking. Just casual conversation stuff like, "Hey, how are you? How's your day going? What are you up to?" etc. I was a sweet kid and was being pleasant and friendly, but He was also being friendly and pleasant. We spoke for a little while. He seemed fairly normal and decent, and I didn't mind talking to him in between going to school and everyday life. Then, after a little while, he said that he wanted to see more of me and wanted to see pictures. I can't remember how soon it was, but we hadn't been talking massively long, a couple days or so at most. I was not exactly comfortable with doing this, and I'm pretty sure I said that I wasn't sure about doing it, and that I felt really weird about it, and it didn't seem quite right. But I ended up saying yes, and said that I would take and send the pictures as soon as I could. I don't know why I said yes. I just did. But in my head, I knew that I wasn't going to actually do it. I just said it. I had no plans to do it. I think I said yes because I wanted to get him to shut up. And I think that I thought if I said yes but never did it, he would eventually get bored and leave me alone. But he brought it up a few times in our conversations, and I was trying to avoid it as much as I could, but I didn't know what to do. And even if I was going to do it, I wouldn't have known how to. Our computer didn't have a webcam, I didn't have Facebook on my phone, nor did I have a photo camera, I don't think. Luckily, he never asked for, and I never gave him my phone number. I never told anyone. Not my mom, not my sister, not my friends, nobody. I didn't want anyone to know, and I was embarrassed. I knew that I was going to stay at my sister's and her boyfriend's house quite soon. They lived in a different area, a fair ways away. So I would be away from home, away from my mom, and away from the computer. I only had a little basic phone at the time. I can't remember if I had a button phone or a touchscreen, but I know that I didn't have Facebook on it. So I knew that I would not be talking to this Jake guy for a while. I got to my sister and her boyfriend's house, and we were having a nice time. We used to get along well, and I would often visit her, wherever she lived while growing up until about the age of 14. We would do things at home together, go out and do things, and just try to make the most of our time together. Roughly a couple days into me visiting my sister's house, I remember being in her kitchen, and she brought up this Jake guy. Her partner was nearby too. To start with, I was confused to how she knew and found out. But I was also scared and embarrassed, and anxiety kicked in a bit too. I tried to avoid saying too much, and I just didn't really know what to do or say. I went to the bathroom and just sat in there for a bit to try and avoid it. I think my sister's boyfriend, now husband, tried saying or asking me something about it while I was sat in the toilet as well. I ended up coming out of the toilet after a few minutes. I can't really remember what happened after that. I don't think much else, if anything else, was said about it while I was staying there for the rest of the week. We just carried on with our days, hung out, tried to enjoy our time together, and then I went home after a week of staying with my sister. Once I got home, I dropped my stuff off, got settled back in, and carried on as normal. At some point along the way, I can't exactly remember when or how long after I got home, but my mom ended up mentioning this Jake guy. Again, I was embarrassed. Anxiety kicked in and I didn't know what to do or say, and I was confused on how my mom knew or found out. The only thing I could think is that somehow, even though she wasn't good with technology, she must have somehow got onto my Facebook account and snooped through and saw my messages, even though we had two different profiles on the computer. One for me and my stuff, and one for her and her stuff. I think I tried to explain it, at least somewhat, and I was trying to defend myself. But I just didn't want to talk about it, and I just wanted it all to be done and gone. I can't remember exactly how the conversation went, or finished, or what happened after. but I deleted and blocked Jake on Facebook, as well as deleted the messages and went on with my life. Luckily, things carried on as normal, and I've always been very cautious and more aware since. For all I know, it could have been some old, weird, creepy guy pretending to be someone else and trying to prey on minors. So, dear Jake or whoever you were, let's not meet again. For the purpose of this story, names and room numbers will be changed. I'm a small 18-year-old girl. I feel like that adds to the fear factor of this story. This happened on a Saturday night, literally last week. My friend Leah and I attended a football game. We got bored and decided to head to a haunted house with our friends Terry, Dawson, and Emma. It was a haunted corn maze, and we had a blast. Eventually, the night started to wind down, and me, Leah, and Terry decided to go back to Terry's dorm room so the hangout could continue. We had dyed Leah's hair and were currently watching a movie when there were 3 loud slams on the door. Terry's roommate went to answer the door. We heard someone grunt and then saw a man who none of us knew walk past Terry's room door and into the bathroom. We were all so confused, and we poked our heads out the door to see Terry's roommate on the floor. The man had pushed him to the ground just to enter the common area of the room. All of us agreed that we did not know this man. We started laughing and making jokes about the situation, because that's how we coped with it at the time. Terry's roommate went to go tell the front desk that someone had come into our room and started taking a shower. Again, it was a Saturday night, so we just assumed the man was drunk or something and was in the wrong room. Eventually, we started hearing rustling in the bathroom, and loud scratches and bangs coming from the door. We started to get scared, so we locked ourselves in Terry's room. Eventually, we heard the bathroom door open, and we all turned towards the locked door. We all jumped as this man began to bang on the door with his fists. He was breathing so heavily that we could hear it from the other side of the door. Leah and I screamed as the banging proceeded to get louder and louder as he began to throw his full weight into the door. Terry was in the back corner of their room as they were starting to spiral into a panic attack. "Holy crap, what's happening?" Leah questioned all of us. We had no clue. At first we thought it was just a drunk guy, but no guy who's hammered out of his mind has enough coordination to take a running start into a door. Finally, the banging stopped. We thought the man had left, but we didn't dare leave the room. It was silent for 3 minutes, and then the scratching started. This man was scraping his fingernails down the freaking door like a dog trying to be let into a house. "Let me in," he whispered. "Please, let me in. Please, I know you're in there. Let me in, damn it!" He began to yell and bang on the door again. How was no one else in this dorm floor hallway coming to help us? Fear was crawling up my body. I didn't know what to do. I have a stress disorder that I take medication for, and this is not the situation for me to be in. I slid down the wall and sat on the floor with my head in my hands to try and calm myself. It had been almost 10 minutes since Terry's roommate went to get campus security. We finally called the front desk of the dorm. Apparently they had already called security the minute the roommate got down there. How was it taking them this long to get there? The man continued to throw himself into the door for another 10 minutes. We thought the thing was going to break. He slammed into it so much. But finally, after 25 minutes, campus security arrived. They sat the man down and started to have a conversation with him instead of taking him out of the freaking dorm room. At this point, I was pissed. What if we were in a place where we couldn't lock a door? Like, outside? Would they still have taken 25 minutes to show up? The man tells them that he hasn't been drinking, that he hasn't smoked anything and that he's fine. They continue to question him, and with each question he begins to get more violent. They finally are able to escort the man out, but not before he scuffled with one of the cops. We could hear it all through the door. Campus security then knocked on our door, telling us that it was safe to come out. When we opened the door, something hit the floor. The cop's eyes widened as he realized what it was. It was a pocket knife that had been lodged into the door. Not only did it take these people 25 minutes to show up, they also didn't check the man or the surrounding area to see if there was a weapon. What a freaking joke. Leah started to cry as we left the room. The security decided to check the rest of the dorm, and lo and behold, they found a crumpled up ball of tinfoil with what they concluded to be heroin in it. Yeah, great job. This dude was methed out of his mind with a freaking pocket knife, and all they could do was say, "Have a safe night," before leaving the dorm room. Have a safe night, my back end. We're all complaining to the campus next week about how the situation was handled, mainly because I know that that man is still on campus. I saw him walking down the road yesterday, just like nothing happened. So screw you, campus security, and screw you, methed out man. So this was a collection of 5 true scary stories, marked as from Reddit, but also from subscribers that submitted them in my direction. A couple people subscribed stories, 2 of them specifically. And yeah, a huge thank you to everyone who lets me use their stories, and everyone who submitted their stories to me. And of course, a huge thank you to you, the listeners, the people who are listening to this video. This is the last Wednesday video, last new content Wednesday video of 2022. Next Wednesday will be a collection of the best scary stories of 2022. I don't know how I'm going to decide that one. I am undecided on that, on how I'm going to do it. So next week, look out for Best of Glitch, Best of 22 as far as scary stories go, non-glitch stories. And then the last video of the year will be a New Year's Eve horror stories video. It'll be new content, so this won't be the last new content. We have 2 more this year. And I promise you, as always, they're gonna be good. They always are, right? Have I ever let you down? Don't answer that. Anyways, if you liked the video, please do consider hitting that thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel and liked what you heard, consider subscribing. That would help tremendously. And you can also leave me a comment down below letting me know what your favorite subject of scary story is so I can add it to the calendar for 2023. I have done a lot of viewer requests this year. It may not seem like it because I don't point out whenever they are viewer requests, but I have done a lot, trust me. Anyways, yeah, just let me know what you want to see next year, and I'll try to get it in if I can, if it's a good subject. If not, well, it's what it is. All that said, friends, I want you to remember you are loved, you are valid, and I do hope that you had a fantastic 2022. It's been a rough year to some extent. I think a lot of people can agree to that. The end of the year here was rough for me, with everything going on with COVID, the flu, just feeling just miserable constantly. But alas, that's okay. Because 2022 will soon be behind us, and 2023 shines bright as a new frontier for our lives. 2023 will be a better year. I promise. One way or another, it's going to be better. Yeah. Anyways, I hope you have a lovely rest of the week. I hope I do see you on the next video. But my friend, until then, much love and sleep well.